Hi, I'm Justin Wolff with Angler West. I'm on the Salmon, Trout Steelhead podcast. Go listen at iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify.
Before we start this episode of the Salmon, Trout Steelhead podcast, I want to let you know about a little opportunity. If you have been listening to this podcast and you have any questions, something you'd like to hear about, a suggestion, a complaint, or a testimonial, whatever it may be, anything about the podcast from our listeners, we want to hear from you. And then if your question, idea, or what have you is read on the next podcast, then you will receive a free 1-year renewal or boost or a brand new subscription, whatever it may be. Send it in to customer service at amatobooks.com. CUSTOMER, customer service, SERVICE at AMATOBOOKS.com, amatobooks.com. Send them in. If we choose you, we're going to add 1 year of Salmon Trout Steelheader to your subscription or start a whole new one. Without further ado, here we go. Hello, everybody. I'm here on the Salmon Trout Steelheader podcast with Justin Wolff from Angler West TV. And a lot of you guys probably have already seen and enjoyed Justin's show. But Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about how long it's been running and where people can view it?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for coming in and seeing me, Lucas. Appreciate it. And, the show's been on since 2003. It aired the week after my daughter Emmeline was born, so that's how I remember that all the time. But
cool.
So I'm working on number 475, I think now will be the next episode.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Closing in on 500.
And I thought, now that I think about it, I thought I had seen them all, but I don't know if I have.
I'm not even sure I've seen them all. Sometimes I all of a sudden will remember about one that I did that I haven't thought about for years and years and years. And there's a lot of really cool stuff I did early on, like real early, that hardly anybody's ever seen because it wasn't on big networks or anything at that time. It's just local stations down in Northern California. And so one of these days, it's a technical issue now. I started running the classic episodes on NBC Sports, but that's only going back 10, 12 years. I can go back another 5 or 6 years. And but getting those shows off the old tapes and onto more modern technology that I can deliver is a challenge.
For sure. So, what kind of format are they on?
Well, the first shows I ever produced were on beta tape, still in those days. And then went to mini DVD on tape.
Oh, yeah.
And so the first probably 200 episodes are on actual tape.
For sure, yeah. So that's one of the things about it is people obviously see you, introduce the show and everything, and people are used to that. But there's so much more going into the making of those episodes. So, although I'm sure you love it and have a lot of fun, what kind of work are people not seeing behind the scenes?
Yeah, people, I get that all the time. People say, I wish I had your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm like, man.
And while you're sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning editing something. Waiting on a commercial from me. And
and the camera work and the editing and all of that is something that I actually enjoyed and was doing a little bit before. And if you don't, for how I produce the show, if you don't like to do camera work and the editing, that's the last thing you want to do is a fishing show. The actual filming of the episodes is probably the easy part, I suppose. I've always had a thing for cameras and being a videographer. I always wanted to be a videographer, and so it allows me to do something I really enjoy. And not that I don't enjoy the fishing part, but I caught a lot of fish before I started filming the show.
Yeah.
And that's not the main thing. So people ask me, well, how do you go there and go all these cool places and not go fishing, like that?
Yeah.
Well, I do go fishing. It is a reality show. I mean, the show is more real than any of the reality shows you see on TV.
Yeah.
But at times, I do fish sometimes to try to catch more fish in the show. Or if I'm traveling somewhere, I'll build in a day or two to where I just get to go fishing. But,
yeah,
you know, fishing's not, there's more to life than just fishing, believe it or not.
Well, yeah, and I, like you said, having caught fish before, I'm sure probably a special part of the enjoyment of fishing now is being able to capture it and then share it with other people.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's been on so long now that I actually have multi-generations of people watching, and I've had, or real early on, I've only been filming maybe 3 years or so. Somebody called me up, they lived in Oroville, I remember. He said, I just want to thank you for the show, because it's the only time during the week when our whole family's together in the same room.
That's so cool.
And I get a lot of that kind of stuff. I think the show's different enough from your typical fishing show that other people besides the typical people will want to watch a fishing show.
Yeah.
Will watch it, and for a lot of, I get it all the time from guys who are just disabled or have whatever issue going on where they can't get out and go fishing themselves. It's kind of how they go fishing.
Totally. For sure. And just from my perspective, it's funny you mentioned the multi-generational thing. My dad and I watched it and enjoy it, and obviously still do. And then, I'm sure my kids have watched it with me. They're always watching my fishing stuff with me, and it's pretty special.
And fishing's become more popular lately. So a lot more kids are starting to have an interest in fishing and being able to access it. Because back when I first started, the bass fishing thing was such a big deal. In fact, I had a bass fishing show for a long time, True Bass.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And that was a pretty decent show down in California. But the thing about bass fishing, back then anyway, it was so centered around the guy with the fancy boat and the fancy shirts, and it just wasn't accessible to your kid that just wants to go fishing. You don't have access to a boat like that and all that equipment and everything. So other types of fishing have allowed more people to have access to it and start to learn about it.
Totally.
So that's what we're seeing these days. I get people in the shop here every day that have never fished before or used to fish and want to get back into it, or just want to learn some really basic setups.
For sure. There's, within of course, throughout the last 2 years, everyone getting outside, a huge uptick in new anglers.
Oh boy, it's pretty
and so they're looking to learn, and that was always, I think, one of the reasons that we watched so many Angler West shows over the years, is that you learn. There's certain episodes that it's like, okay, I got to go back and watch that one because what he said there was really important, but I forgot what he said about the leader length or whatever.
Yeah, the whole, when I started the show, I didn't know I was starting the show when I started it in a weird sort of way. I had a radio show, Angler West Radio. So for a long time it was Angler West Radio and Angler West TV. That's why it's always been Angler West TV.
Yeah.
Just because in my mind that's what it was, because there was radio. It was two different things. And it started off as just a kind of a fishing report on radio, and then
now that was in California.
That was in Redding, California.
Redding,
buddy,
okay.
Mike Quinn down there, who had a little radio station.
What fisheries were you reporting on?
Well, Sacramento River and Shasta Lake mainly.
Yeah.
Just because I had a lot of guys who were really good fishermen. Some old boys down there from the Cottonwood Bass team and in the Redding area. I belonged to that, and those guys were great, and they were real supportive, and they helped me a lot, just giving me that opportunity to get out with them, and they let these are really good fishermen, and but these guys were good, and they were open to sharing, and that generated huge interest in the show, because this was a long time before YouTube. And
so these are live fishing reports.
It was kind of almost, and it was immediate. I had to. I didn't have any other choice. I wasn't, because I didn't know I was doing it when I started. Kind of funny how it started.
So when did you officially, I guess, start in media? Because of course, I'm thinking Angler West TV, but going back, you had the radio show. I mean, when did you start?
The very first few episodes, actually, the title was the Northern California Lake and River Report. Yeah. It was a fishing report. That's all it was.
Cool.
And then I started doing it on video. There was a guy that I was fishing a lot on the river who owned a little TV station.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, I want an outdoor show.
Did you build any sort of, I guess, kind of videography skills or equipment before you got into any of this? Or was it kind of, as you got into it, you learned?
I had some interest in still photography, and I still do. That's a lot more difficult than videography. So I could handle a camera okay, but I guess I just kind of a natural. I can give somebody like my cell phone and have them take a picture or something, I can tell you whether or not they have potential of being a videographer or a good photographer, because just the framing, do they get it or not? And it's not. It's funny how, because I've tried to find over the years a lot of people who try to film with me, and it's difficult. And I've had guys who've gone to school to be that sort of thing come to me, and they just don't have the natural whatever it is, the way the brain's connected or whatever.
For sure.
So.
Well, and you have to observe. You have to observe and be the type of person that's going to think, how's this? Be framing it in your mind, as well as, I'm sure watching other shows for reference and such. Not necessarily to learn from them, but you've learned over the years just watching in general.
Yeah. Of course, I watch other shows. I watch Roland Martin all the time, and some of the old ones. But as more fishing shows came about, when I watched fishing shows, it was more like, okay, that's what I don't want to do.
Nice, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yep, so it's like the fishing's good, the filming's bad. That's the thing, is often, here's what happens. You either have the fishing's good and the filming is bad, or the filming is good and the fishing is bad, but your show actually has both. Good production and good fishing.
So.
It's nice.
I try to keep it brain friendly. That's the way I describe it. But
it's certainly
there's gotta
accessible.
Be some value to it. You're asking somebody to sit there for 20 minutes or half hour to watch something. What's the value in it? What are they getting out of doing that? The way the show's done is really just a matter of it came out of that's the only way I could do it.
Yeah.
And doing it all by myself like that. But nowadays, I suppose I could hire people, but it would change the show. I'd just rather do it myself.
For sure.
But yeah, sometimes I wish I had more help, and I am actively open to having more help with production for sure.
Yeah. So it's certainly that the work aspect and the technical aspect. There's all that. Now, what about just kind of the travel aspect? Tell us a little bit about maybe the more remote trips you've taken.
Yeah, well, got into the travel thing, and that's partly because I really enjoy traveling. Just the concept of it, and seeing new places, and the food is a really big deal, and of course the fishing, but that kind of started back in 2008 when the economy crashed. Really, it was the travel part of what I was doing that really helped get through those times. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a little bit of a business aspect too, but there's, of course I've had really good sponsors like Van Wormer Resorts down in Baja. I've done, I don't know how many shows down there now for 15 years, and then, up at Winter Harbor, and I've had some, Panama, the Paradise Lodge, and different places around the world. And so most of the time, it's a business trip. Yeah. But I have done some trips that were more or less on the fun side, but I'm hoping I get a good episode out of them anyway. But I definitely turned down a lot more trips than.
Oh, there's so much you could do. There's so much you could do.
Yeah, I could do nothing but just. If I didn't need to make money, I could just travel around the world and film fishing shows and not make any money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's one of the sides of it is you work hard at it, and but I think people may not understand, and many do as well, but there is, when I think about the length of your show and the edits and the plus every other aspect of it, there is quite a few different things to keep track of. So when you started Angler West TV, did you have anyone helping you?
No. Some of the radio show.
Like, how did you figure out all the aspects of producing a TV show?
Well, I had George, who owned a little TV station. He kind of like he had a certain way of doing things. He did a little bit of production for himself, but I looked at what he was doing, and I went totally opposite direction. Against George, he was a great guy, but as far as how I set up technically back in those days, and that worked out well, but it just changed. I had help through what happened eventually. At first, I was just. The very first episodes were actually aired on public access in Reading. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to air on George's channel, but we got a little disagreement about some things, and I went ahead and aired the first few shows on public access.
Yeah.
and people were taping it. There were these things called VCRs back then.
Yes.
That they were taping the show and sharing it with each other. It got pretty popular that way. It was just for a little while. And then I put it on George's channel. And then I met Benny Brown at Corning Ford down there. And he put it on, I think it was NBC and CBS in Reading at the same time.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Yeah,
how was that?
I don't know. He just did it. He had a lot of buying power down there, I guess. And Benny's a really good businessman. But he really got me going because I didn't have any sponsors for a long time.
Yeah.
Probably the first year I don't think I had any sponsors. So that's when it started to get on regular TV, and then those guys worked in the TV stations. They helped me a lot with the technical part of it and getting things delivered, but everything's changed so much since then. Mm-hmm. It's really pretty simple these days. That's the thing. I mean, I could produce a TV show with my cell phone.
It's crazy.
Which I've done before. The show I did in China, about half of that was on my cell phone because I didn't have a camera with me half the time when we were doing things. But definitely the technical part of it is a whole lot easier these days.
Oh man. Yeah, and more compact and so much more storage. But yeah, there still is, though. It's like no matter how easy the technology may make it, it still requires a production and an artistic mind, and so it changes things.
It's if it's how I think about it, it's a story. Every story has a problem, and what I think. I'm a pretty decent writer, and in college I did some pretty high-end type of professional level writing courses and some essay writing, and I know how to structure an essay, and that's what the show is basically, an essay using video and some words and some graphics that all works together, but there's a structure to it. It's a predictable structure, and I think that's what I like about it, and I think that maybe when I say it's brain friendly, it's because you can kind of halfway predict what's going to happen.
Something to be said for that.
Not going to happen.
Absolutely.
And then that makes, and when I'm filming, I have the show done in my head before it happens, kind of.
Yeah.
And hopefully the fish cooperate. Sometimes I got to change the plan, or at least while I'm filming, I'm editing. So when I'm done the day of filming, I know what I'm going to do. Like tomorrow, I'm going out with Jason Hambley.
Cool, yeah.
Up to Drano. Now, I've done that before with them. I kind of have an idea in my head of what I can kind of expect.
Yeah.
So I know what I want, and we'll see how it all progresses. But by the end of the day tomorrow, even though I don't have anything edited, I've got it edited in my head.
So you have Jason from Procure on the show that you're going to film tomorrow, which his podcast will be out later than that, and then I'm sure the episode will come out eventually, but keep an eye out for that. But you have a lot of different personalities on the show and you work with. So how has that kind of happened over the years, networking with them and doing that sort of thing?
Well, it's been really good. I for the most part, I let my sponsors set up the episodes.
Cool.
Because that takes some of the pressure off me, because even that's just a big job, just coordinating. Because I filmed 26 episodes. I'm the only idiot in the planet, I think, that's still doing 26 episodes in a year. I mean, nobody does that anymore. But so I hopefully these guys are vetted a little bit to where I trust my sponsors to set me up with good guys, and 99% of the time that's really true. Mm-hmm. And there's some guys like Jason that I mean, he's an easy day, because he's a good fisherman. He speaks well about what he's doing. He's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and he catches fish. So it's but I got a lot of guys I work with like that.
Yeah.
So and it's not so much some guys don't speak so well, but I do help them with that.
Yeah.
Which you don't see in the show, but I'll start their sentences for them.
Yeah.
And then also I just let them keep going. There's nothing that what's painful for me to watch is like the talking head in a fishing show where the guys are sitting under a tree or something talking about what happened or what's gonna whatever, but just talking. And some guys can do that, can pull that off, okay,
Yeah.
But other guys just you don't ask a non-actor to act. That's what's been my rule. Because so I'll have guys actually doing something and doing what they're talking about while they're talking, and that makes them more comfortable, and usually get a better, product
Yeah,
that way.
because those, a guide who's been telling his clients every day, for the past 3 months to rig it up this way. Every morning he's been giving that speech. He can give a good speech, but if you put a camera in his face, he's going to be terrified sometimes.
Exactly.
Whereas other people, you turn on that camera and they come alive.
That's exactly right. You don't know what you got until you really start working with them. But the main thing is I just try to get people comfortable and not worried about the camera. I don't make a big production out of it. I don't.
And it's
take
genuine.
People with me. I've scaled down my equipment to practically nothing.
Yeah.
I used to haul around big cameras and the lights and all that crap. But
oh wow.
it just these days with the stuff that's available, it's nice and small and the quality's there, and it just makes the whole experience for everybody less stressful.
Yeah.
And just focus on fishing. So when I show up in the morning, they say, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I say, "Well, let's go fishing." Don't do anything different than you normally do.
Do your programming, and then you get some people that you could just you could just tell them start talking.
Well, and those guys, that can be good, but that can also be a problem too, because you got to keep control of the lengths.
But you have the editing power, though.
Yeah, well, sure. But I try to make it all work.
Yeah, for sure.
That just comes with practice, I think.
So, could you tell me about any trip that didn't quite go as planned?
Well, there's been very few days where it didn't get anything, really. Of all the different times I've been out filming, really not that much where I didn't get a show just because we didn't catch any fish. And of course, that happens, but not very often, not as often as you think it would. I
need to fish with you a lot more often.
But then... things happen, like I did that show in Guyana where I went there with 7 cameras and came home with 1, just because they all went in the water. And
no way.
Yeah, Todd Storm, my buddy, he flipped the boat over we were on and hooking them and trying to hook this big arapaima, and just everything just went in the water. Everything was, so by the end of that trip I was filming with my cell phone. I got the cameras back, so I got the cards.
Really?
Video.
Oh, wow.
You just dive down and find the cameras. But
so you did get, how deep was it?
Oh, those ponds are only 6 or 7 feet deep.
Okay, so they were easy to find, though?
Yeah, well, the guides dove down. Yeah, I was in that crash, there was, I think, 2 cameras that I lost there. But then there was other issues. But yeah, you have problems like that. I've lost a lot of cameras, but
So wait, did you fall in the water with it?
Oh, well, the whole boat flipped over. Everybody all went in the water.
And with some arapaima around?
Yeah, we were fishing for arapaima.
How did that feel to fall into those type of waters? Is it a little sketchy down there?
Oh, yeah, they're full of piranha, but the piranha, that's not an issue. That's
really?
Kind of a myth. There was one species of piranha that if you were bleeding and you were standing in the water, eventually they'd come and chew on you, but it's not like, in the movies or whatever.
So they don't just hammer your legs?
They won't just come after you. No, not at all. It's no problem swimming around them.
So it's more just like throwing like a piece of meat in there that'll get them going or something?
Well, they'll come just like a bunch of perch, They're just kind of like perch with teeth.
Perch with teeth, huh.
Yeah, that whole...
So they're not stalking you back to camp at night and...
There's lots of different kinds of piranha. They're fun to catch.
Really?
They're really good to eat.
Do you use like a little metal wire for them at all, or just...
Well, if you was going to target them, that would probably be smart. You lose all your lures.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a nuisance because when you, I was in the Amazons last winter, we were throwing spinnerbaits for peacock bass and arowana and that sort of thing. And then if you're around a bunch of piranha, every cast you make, your spinnerbait comes back about a 1/4 inch shorter, the skirt.
Really?
So anything plastic and that sort of thing gets chewed to pieces. But
wow,
that's the real problem with the piranha.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So just throw bigger baits and harder baits or something, or.
Well, just change your skirt,
Yeah.
So the spinnerbaits are working, use what was working.
Now, what about how, as far as the Amazon goes? Were you just kind of at a hotel, jump on the water real quick, or did you ever do anything kind of deeper into the?
No, that trip flew into Manaus, and then you get on a riverboat, which was a nice boat, comfortable. I had my own room, shower, and bathroom and everything, and it was an 18-hour run up the river.
Yeah. So you're just living in luxury on the way up
that
to
was
fish
pretty
fry.
nice. Yeah,
wow.
it's a nice boat.
See, I was thinking of like you with a straw hat on and a paddle board going upriver, for 18 months.
No. You get up there, then you use the little boats to get around.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Got another trip. You're welcome to come.
I'm in.
I think it's
we're going.
We're going to. Well, I've got two possibilities. I don't know. Going to either one this winter, I guess. Yeah. October or December to the Amazon, either the White River, Bronco, or another place. Anyway, I got some trips to the Amazon planned.
Wow. What are you doing? What are you fishing for? Peacock bass?
Well, one of the, big peacocks is the main thing. But, peacocks are great, but big arowana and
what are those?
Pariah and...
Arowana?
Arowana.
What is that? Are fish not legal in 38 states or what?
You see them in pet stores sometimes in the tanks. They're
How big are they?
Well, they can get up to about 10 pounds.
Oh, wow.
10 pound arowana is something
Yeah.
else. But it's just one of those exotic species down there. But Pariah, the vampire fish, and the wolf fish, and there's lots of different. That's one thing that's fun about that part of the world is you don't know what you're going to catch.
Yeah, that's incredible. And do you get a bunch of topwater fish in there too?
Oh, yeah, do whatever you can fish however you want them, depending on.
Yeah, because I've seen some of that footage, and I've always really wondered about that system. Like you said, that you can catch anything in there. Have you been over there and caught anything that you didn't know what it was, or kind of had to take a look?
Sure, all the time.
Yeah.
You catch fish and just I wouldn't know what it was and.
Yeah.
I was with a guy this last time, Scott, who I just filmed a little bit with in Florida, who got my first snakehead the other day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you can see that on YouTube. It's not an episode of Angler West, but I put it up on YouTube. It's
nice.
Just a little
video. Yeah. Down at ICAST or?
Yeah,
cool.
In the Tampa area there. And
wow.
Yeah. So, the exotic stuff's fun. But then I've got a trip to Panama coming up. And, these trips like that, if anybody's interested in going on a trip, you can feel free to call and, contact me, email or call or whatever, and I can help you set up a trip, or if I have one booked, chances are there's room on the trip for you. Yeah,
and I mean, like he said, he's got connections with some of the most amazing, lodges and fishing opportunities in the world.
Got some good stuff.
But the nice thing there is you can kind of like watch your show, take a look, and be like, okay, that one looks fun to me. That one looks like too much work. I don't want to do that, and then figure it out. And so for me, with Angler West, it was all about salmon and steelhead right here. I mean, by the time I started watching, it was a lot of content around here and stuff. But it's interesting enough that I'll watch species that I've never fished for on there, which I do not normally do. I normally kind of avoid like random species unless it's some.
Yeah, well, that's real. You're from the Northwest, Up here, a lot of people. There's two types of fish: salmon, steelhead, or three types: salmon, steelhead, and trash fish. Everything else. So that's a real Northwest thing, and that's okay, But
and we got a lot of good stuff to do here, though, which is cool because you filmed everything here in the Northwest that you can do, and there's a lot more than just salmon and steelhead. There's some.
I'm all about trying new things and. It's just funny. I've always kind of run into that, like Jason. We're talking about Jason Hambley. He's one of those guys. There's three types of fish in this world: salmon, and trash fish. It's
good stuff.
I don't criticize that, but I'd encourage people to take a look at other types of fishing. I mean, right around here too. Walleye are so good to eat. And it could be fun to catch. And
smallmouth bass.
Smallmouth.
I'm a huge fan. I did a 9-hour float yesterday, right down in Oregon, and
right on.
Caught 25 or so.
Yeah, and bass fishing, because Northwest does have a lot of good bass fishing. It's kind of an undeveloped part of the fisheries around here. So it's hugely underdeveloped. It's crazy. Anything that looks like it has a bass in it probably has one around here. But the thing is, if it's tidal, they are only in there at one part of the tide in some cases and stuff. So around like the lower Columbia, there's some mystery to it. But I would assume, I actually don't know 100% for sure if you fish that, but I know earlier, but the Delta and that area and some of that tidal type stuff. Well, that's where I'm from. I grew up just outside Davis, California.
So how far are you from like the Delta then?
45 minutes.
Yeah. So did you fish a lot of tidal bass?
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. Is once you figure out how the tides position the fish and affect how they feed, it's kind of like salmon. You know, there's going to be certain times of the tide where where it's going to work for you. So down there, basically when the water's moving, they're going to feed better.
Yeah,
they're going to be more accessible. So it's a similar thing. Then you got the stripers in there and everything else.
So did you move, like, what was the timeline of California and Washington here?
Well, I started the show in 2003 in Redding, and then 2008 I got hooked up with a company that Gary Loomis was involved with, and he's the one that talked me into coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved up here in 2008, and I'd already started to air the show up here, I think the year before that. So the show had already begun up here, I think. And so, I've always, California's a bigger market. There's more people in California.
Yeah.
So,
and you've got a really big following in California, but also here. But it's smaller here with
it's
less,
smaller
less
market,
people.
Yeah. But I've forced people up here to watch some California stuff, and I got some kind of gets people that don't want to see any of that California stuff, but I haven't heard much of that lately. You know,
no, not at all.
The smart fisherman's going to want to learn from other people.
Well, there's so much that transfers. You got some great quick fish. Like think about some of that, like Wraith Herfer, back bouncing quick fish, and that's some cool footage right there. You know,
right. It blew me away the differences of, because I've done a lot of salmon fishing down there in California, but really none up here. And the first time I came up here and fished or started to come up here, it really was surprising how different some of the stuff was, some of the techniques were, and the tackle and everything. And it's quite a bit different. But there's things that I think guys from here in Northwest could learn from guys in California, and definitely the other way around.
Always, yeah.
So, and I think there has been, maybe, with my show and whatever else people are learning, that people have modified, like kokanee, for example. When I came up here, I could not believe it was like going back to the Stone Age with kokanee fishing.
Oh, with the people, giant Ford fenders and stuff?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I haven't seen anything like that for years.
Yeah.
And
that's all people did.
I introduced a few people like Cameron Black to sling blades and that
hoochie skirts and stuff.
Fishing. And it didn't. The first year I was up here, the parking lot in Merwin, it was nothing but Ford fenders, and it just took a year. The next year, I saw nothing but sling blades and other types of smaller dodgers like that. It didn't take long for people to really pick up on that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I tried it, because it was always wedding rings and Ford fenders, and then put that on there with way less drag. And I know my dad, who's always a little skeptical of new baits, I put it on there, and after like 12 bites on my rod to like one with his, he asked for one.
Yeah. It all works. But, what's been funny is, fads kind of come and go. But I've noticed people coming in the shop now asking for like Ford fenders, asking for that old style of the flasher. It's kind of like they're coming back in style now.
Yeah, and there is times. There was one trip I did see the wedding ring and Ford fender come back to play. But one of the big issues with that Ford fender is just all the drag and stuff. And so that gang troll, if you can get a lighter one, I think it's just, with kokanee, if you're dragging that much gear, it gets tough.
Yeah.
Those sling blades are nice for that.
Sure. Yeah. No, that type of style of dodger really does work well.
Yeah.
And there's other lighter stuff these days that works really well too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's the thing. There's so much products available now. It's all really good.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, who's got time to use it all?
I know. Well, hey, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast with me here. And this is actually being recorded at Justin's shop in Woodland, Washington. So if you get a chance to stop by, you can just Google Angler West. Woodland, Washington, if you want to stop by.
Pop up and get directions. Yeah. It's just downtown Woodland.
Yeah.
One thing you can mention, though, I don't know if you know, but the Angler West is going to different networks here pretty soon in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Because of the whole deal with the Blazers.
Yep.
So the NBC Sports Northwest is going away the end of September. So the first week of October, the show is going to be airing on the CW network in Portland and the CW network in Seattle.
Awesome. CW Network, you heard it here. Maybe not first, but
the
early.
first, actually. Yeah,
Okay,
the first.
you heard it here first. So,
Yeah,
so
totally,
that sounds great, and just keep up with Justin, everything he's got going on. And we know you all are on YouTube, so jump on there and just go dig through. There's some personal favorites. I would search for, Angler West, some of the like the buoy 10, actually right now, some of that buoy 10 footage, and I would just search Angler West fall salmon and look at all the different options that you have, because it's all the way up to Columbia.
Yeah, if you just did a search for buoy 10 or
fall salmon,
Columbia River salmon, and they're set up in categories too, like by salmon. You can see all the salmon episodes, but they'll all pop up, and there's a lot of really good information there from different guys too.
Yeah, and if you get going, I mean, there's so much knowledge that can be learned and just fun stuff to see. And then one thing that I noticed is it was nice. You watch a certain video, and especially if you're going to do that fishery, and you kind of get some of those tips, and you get that extra confidence, and you go and it works. It's like, that's really special, and that's the type of stuff that has actually happened with me with Angler West. So, that's why I'm drawn to outlets like Salmon, Trout Steelhead. Before I work there, it's because I learned something that actually works, and you're there teaching something that works.
I've filmed with 2 different guides now who were just set up through the sponsors, like I was saying, and these guys told me that they learned how to fish by watching a show.
That's amazing.
Really.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well,
that's great. And then now they're sharing. So
sure, yeah, and but there's a lot of good information in those episodes for sure.
Well, I'm sure you've learned a thing or two while filming it.
Oh yeah, I bet you. Yeah. So please check those videos out on YouTube and subscribe, and because I upload at least once a week, at least the episodes, and then some other different types of videos too that might be helpful.
Thanks, guys. Shoot this out to your friends and check out Angler West TV.